So Nick, it's been a couple weeks. When are you going to do a video?
It has been wild. It has been wild. I hope you're all doing well, staying healthy and safe as always. I don't even know where to start with this because I haven't done a video down in the bunker in a while. I'm kind of rethinking the whole setup. We're working on a bigger space at the present moment and everything else. But part of that was taking a look at, and what we'll take a look at today is the new, I wouldn't say new, but they've kind of revamped this a few times, the Alienware / Dell R15s. And I had a problem with one. It seems to be a common problem. And this one is actually going back. And this one's the replacement. And I wanted to kind of make a video just to help some others out in a way. But we are working on the bunker, the setup. It's a mess right now. I got cameras and computers all over the place. And I have about a 2-hour window until I have to go move a couple servers tonight for a cutover. So that's going to be interesting as well. So my schedule's kind of non-stop, and we'll get back to making videos. But Brian said, you know, my buddy, he's like, dude, I'll just turn the camera on and you can tell people what you're up to. So this is the Alienware R15 model with the 13900 KF Intel Core i9 processor. I picked two of these up, and one of them came with some problems. And this is like, it's tough when you buy something brand new and you're spending anywhere between $4,000 and $5,000 on one of these systems if you're getting them spec'd out today's day and age. Now there's positives and negatives to buying a pre-built gaming PC, and there's tons of videos on these machines, so I'm not going to go into like every single spec and everything else, but I thought I'd share with you one of the problems I'm having. And I did see a Reddit article on this problem where they would get the PC, they'd get it set up, and between either the video card and it didn't have to be intensive processing or anything like that, it would just reboot, the system would die, the fans would kick on like high speed for a few seconds, shut off, reboot, boom, you're fine. You might be good for 2 hours, you might be good for 5 minutes. It was really hard to say. So I went through a bunch of diagnostics with Dell, and typically I go through like a traditional clean workstation setup. These two here are set up. This is the one that's going to be going back. Dell is really, you know, the one thing about buying something like this is Dell's really good with, I believe, and we do a lot of Dell systems and everything else for clients and everything else with their support and their follow through. So a couple calls to Dell, they answer at 2, 3 in the morning or 1 in the morning, whatever time's available. They have representatives all over the world, but I was able to surpass or go past a couple of the, can we reboot this or can we just test this? So being a network guy or a technical guy, I was able to bypass and say, here's a test that I've done. I ran like, all I did was, actually I got this system. One system came with Windows Pro, the other system came with Windows Home. I upgraded because I have licenses for Windows Pro, so I just threw a license on it and upgraded it. But this came stock. This is the i9 13900 KF. It has the Geforce 4090 in it. They've made some upgrades to the case. It has 32 gig of RAM because Dell typically charges a lot more for the memory, and that's kind of an issue too, because when you get into the memory specs, some memory modules won't work properly in these units. And they've done some BIOS updates. Like Dell has done a ton of BIOS updates. So if you're not familiar with BIOS updates, it's kind of like, let's call it like the firmware or the software that kind of runs your core components before you get into the operating system. So some of the limitations that I got on this, I did upgrade this to 64 gig of RAM, so we had to verify that the memory wasn't the issue and everything else. You do the memory tests, all that kind of stuff passes. The hardware tests pass, everything shows passing, but the system would just dump, reboot. They opted to send replacement parts, and they said, you know, the system's a few days old, you can definitely start. And I noticed this right away. I actually have remote access to all my systems, and I was at our camp property, and the system was just dying. And I was like, man, I rebooted twice this weekend randomly. I was like, well, I already did all the updates. I did all the driver updates. And when you first get a computer like this, typically you're going to want to go through, I usually go to the manufacturers to find out like video card drivers, the motherboard drivers, chipset, all that kind of stuff, wireless adapters, make sure all those drivers are up to date. Went through that whole process. Of course, that takes a little bit of time. So I got the system up and running in a weekend. I was out of town. I was like, I'll remote into it, mess around with it. I also set one of these up for a customer of mine and his is perfect. So I actually had two systems to test with and play with, and I did like the identical setup on both, and it was definitely hardware. Now I didn't pinpoint exactly what was going on, but the video card issue, there is a Reddit article that posted on it, and they just talked about like the fans spinning up, and a lot of people were trying to get them replaced. So I don't know if this is a common issue with the Alienware R15s. They have made upgrades. People said, you know, in these systems, some of the issues is where how the fans move airflow. In the older model, they didn't have these holes cut in the side, so you can see in this side case there's holes cut. And I'll just go over here and show you kind of a little bit of the interior setup of a system like this. So this is nice with the mesh screen. Try to get that airflow right into the Geforce 4090. They do have the cutouts here. Now I think these 4090s are custom made for Dell, so they are actually like made for the system. They still have the bracket bar to hold it for shipping and everything else to keep that weight of that card firmly attached. Of course, you have your hard drive if you do an extra hard drive in this unit. I just standard NVMe hard drive. It has the 1 terabyte drive, had 32 gigs of memory to stock, the 4090, the 13900 KF processor, and then of course this bar here, which is not a bar to hold. If you put this is a light bar underneath, so LED light bar, kind of you can customize all your lighting and everything else. They did upgrade this unit. Underneath here you can see I think they're 240 millimeter cooling system, which kind of blow up and then out, so you still have like a 90-degree turn here, and your airflow comes out the back. This thing is kind of a dust magnet. Now when you get this, they're going to have all the plastic over top of it, so it's covered. This system was kind of sitting, I probably ran this for about a week and a half. And what was interesting about this was, you know, after going through all the steps and everything else, I got the desktop and everything, just everything where I wanted it. I'm like, there's something wrong with the system, right? And I didn't feel like troubleshooting. When you spend this kind of money, I was like, just send me a replacement, right? So they did do a quick advanced replacement. So they sent this to me at no charge, and then this one will go back with no additional cost to my credit card or anything like that. So that's really a nice feature. So let's get back to the computer. We have basically, I tried the RAM. We took that back down to 32 because that's got to go back. Did put that in here. It works fine. There's no problem with the memory, that kind of stuff. So this is now a Windows Pro box, Windows 11 Pro with 64 gig of RAM. The one limitation is like you only get 2 slots on the motherboard with some of these systems, so they're going to build them. You kind of want to build these systems almost exactly what you want, and the max memory is 64 gig. I don't believe, I think Crucial launched a 48 gig, 248 gig sticks that you could get, but I don't know if they'll actually work in this system. So right now it's basically you have 2 slots there. There's some limitations that Dell kind of let's call it just throttles, I guess would be the word. The bandwidth per se of the systems, and some of that's for protection and versus like overclocking it and everything else. But for an all-around gaming system, I did some tests on the original box. Tested the processor. I wanted to see like just how did it do in like single core and multi-core, and it performed okay. It was a little bit lower than what the processor is probably capable of, but I'm sure there's updates and everything else that'll come along in BIOS, and I could tweak settings. I just wanted a system, as I'm rethinking the bunker, for I do a lot of stuff. So just like a high-end desktop, and I always carry like a desktop that runs in my background over here. But overall, they've upgraded some of this stuff. They've upgraded the cooling, because cooling and heat was an issue with these, and anybody that knows computers knows if the heat can't escape and this stuff builds up heat, it's going to throttle, it's going to slow down and everything else. But it does have the wireless, I think it's the 1675X killer Wi-Fi Intel wireless card. So when you get a system like this, you're going to get your wireless adapter here. If you do wireless, it has 2.5 gig Ethernet port, which is backwards compatible. So right now, this system here is hardwired. I have a 10 gig network at home, so it's going to just pull 2.5 gig off my switch for here. But most of my stuff is 10 gig to my NAS drive and some of my storage stuff. But overall, the new system, now they sent me this new one. It's working fine. I haven't had any random reboots. I haven't had any crashes. The issue I was getting was a kernel kernel power issue. So if you go into like your event viewer and anybody that has this system, I'd love to see if somebody figures it out. I didn't read the rest of the forum, but there's definitely something up with some of these units. Out of 2 of them, for one to be bad, and you know the next one came and it's good. And actually, I didn't even see any kind of issues with the processor on this unit as far as like heat or anything else. I'm checking heat, I'm checking the temperatures, I'm checking making sure the fans are going, I'm checking all this stuff to see what was going on. I don't have time right now with all the projects I've going on to sit there and diagnose it. And when you spend that kind of that kind of money, you just want it to get fixed, right? And not go part after part and technicians and all this other kind of stuff, or they send you the parts, you got to replace them. It's time. Time is valuable. So that's where I'm at with this unit. Let's see, what else did I upgrade? So standard 1 terabyte NVMe drive in this unit. I got, of course, it's a direct replacement. I upgraded the 64 gig of memory, which is the max. I have the 1 terabyte drive that comes with it, and then I have a Samsung. It's the 990 Pro as a secondary drive for, say, NVMe. So you have 2 slots for the NVMe on there. And then you could still put another drive down below if you wanted to run like a 7200 RPM hard drive or whatever else, or another solid state. Cable management. You know, of course, you have all your lighting controls and Alienware controls that can control your lightings, all the different colors. You got the light. This lights up here for the Geforce on the side. You can kind of maybe see that through the glass. I have the power down right now on the light bar and everything else. I just put it in night mode because I'm not really big into the colors and everything else. I would put this, I actually was choosing between a standard XPS system and doing an XPS with a 4090 versus the Alienware, and I ended up going with the Alienware. It just cost perspective. Now what I would say is before you just go on Dell's website and click to buy, I would make a phone call to Dell, because a lot of times there's promotions that they can apply for you and get these systems down into like the 4,000 range. And that's where it might become valuable to get the video card and everything else. 4090s were really tough to come by a couple months ago. The prices were up on those. I think they're going, I think that's like a stock that's like $1,500, $1,599 for the video card. They were up in the 2000s at one point. Like, you just couldn't get them, and they're still hard to find. Every once in a while a store will get them. At Best Buy you could pick up the video card. So it was just a quick way to get a system in here that's kind of standard. I paired it with a and Brian, you could show this. I paired it with we got so many things going on. Paired it with a Dell 38-inch monitor right now. It's just 60 hertz 4K display, which actually is really nice to have, like, productivity is what, like, across the screen. On my Mac, I run, this is like my primary unit, I run the Apple Studio display, 5K display. At the office, I have another 5K display. Then this box up here is kind of my system that's going to get replaced with that Dell. So, like, really, this is kind of like the lab right now for, like, all things going on. We did get the GoPro Hero 12 on release day. I haven't had time to do a video on that. So many projects in the works, and we have the evolution of GoPros sitting here. So we're just changing out some equipment, making changes. I thought I'd make a quick video on the Alienware R15. Overall decent system. You've got one USB-C port on the front. You got 3 USB-A ports on the front. You got your headphone jack in the front. We could take a look at the back. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else. I probably missed a ton of stuff. If you want to see, like, how fans get removed and how they clip in and how Dell and Alienware do their stuff, try to make it like a toolless design. Of course, you can hit this lock here and slide that fan cover out, which kind of directs the airflow across the and let me get that popped back in there. But there's like rails for the fans. So all that stuff locks in, but it directs the airflow right across the video card. And that's the idea, besides opening this up, kind of gets that airflow right in, brings it across, sucks it up, but you still have a 90-degree here. It's kind of like wasted space. I don't know if it's the best case design. They've kind of kept this the same. The new Alienware R16 is out now, but it doesn't, you can't get the 4090 with it. I think it's only like a 4080 or 4070 that comes in that. And maybe they'll come out with the 4090. On the back, it's minimal I/O. Let's call it minimal I/O for what you need to solve. That's why it's not a motherboard that's $900 that you're going to go ahead and add a bunch of stuff. So really get this designed how you want it. I don't even know if I could sneak a 10 gig port in there under the video card to run 10 gig. It's going to be close, but I'm fine for this system for what I'm using it for, to be 2.5 gig. I'm okay with that. Hopefully I didn't miss anything else. That clips on there. You can screw down and lock it. As far as the I/O, you'll have your service tag. You have your Ethernet. You have two 10 and 20 on your USB-C in the back. You have 6 USB-As. You got all your audio, optical, power, and your video card, which comes with 1 HDMI and 3 DisplayPort connections. So very standard. On the other side, if you haven't seen the other side of this system, since we haven't shown you, we'll spin that around. Just a solid case cover. You can pull this cover off, and it's very minimal wiring on the inside. So they talk about that. Most of the time, most people aren't going to open that and see it. You can watch a ton of videos that'll show you that kind of stuff. This is where we're at. So this system's going back. It's a shame I had to go through that, but it was quick response from Dell. The whole process took maybe, what would you say, like 7 days, give or take. And that was just because there was a weekend in between. But they have to go through their build, and I'm not sure if they build these in Texas or if they build these overseas and then assemble them, or have all the parts come over and then assemble them in Texas and then send it out. But we did get this back in a few days. This one's going to go back. The other system we have has been working fine, working solid. I do recommend going through all your updates if you're having that issue. Love to see if anybody else has any comments, or if you're running an Alienware system, what your thoughts are on it. But this is the new upgraded version of the R15, liquid cooling, everything else. This will be the unit we put under that desk by my power supply. See, I'm all over the place because I got to be on a network job here in a couple hours. But it's definitely going to be a good unit to connect into my NAS, which is a QNAP. And this is kind of the bunker setup right now. We do have other videos on the way and stuff, aside from technology on the channel. I can't think of anything else that I would do that I wanted to talk about in this. I'm probably missing a bunch of things, but that's what I've been up to recently. So we jump around. We got to get some things done. I wanted to share that with you. That's going to be the new unit here. I'll let you know if you have any questions or if I can answer something, how it's working. So far, this unit's been rock solid. Been running it every day, nonstop. I haven't done any like crazy intensive, more data stuff and virtual machine stuff on it than really gaming. I'm not really big. I have the PlayStation. We do some gaming there from time to time, but time's been a little bit tight. We have a lot of other things on the way. I hope you got some value out of this video. I just think that this unit might be good if you can get it the right price. Call Dell before you just go on the website. They have back to school specials. They always do different specials, end of quarter deals, things like that. If you can get it at a good price, it might be worth considering. A system that's supported. You can get the 3-year next business day parts, labor, things like that on these systems. Dell really, you pay for it, but they do follow through with their support and everything else. So they did me a solid on this and sent me a new machine. Send this one back, no big deal. Put it in the box. Keep your accessories, everything else. Very simple exchange. This may be a system that you want to consider if you're not looking for major input output, I/O, everything else. You're not looking to upgrade down the road. You just kind of want a good system that's supported, maybe for your kids for gaming, maybe it's for video editing and you're a video editor. I think you'll get enough value out of this that you can make it worth it if you get it at the right price. So would I pay $4 or $5 grand, over $5 grand, or what they started at? I think they've come down in price a little bit. Video cards have come down. Those are all over the place, but I don't know if there's definitely some good other systems and other brands out there, but you kind of have to look at the support and everything else. So this is a quick way to get it. You could upgrade it a little bit, software perspective. That's what I did. I did a memory, a little extra hard drive. I just know that kind of the secondary accessories you can get cheaper versus getting them built in right off the bat, like especially the memory upgrades, but they are finicky with their BIOS and what they do for memory. But that's what I've been up to. We'll have some videos. I have the iPhone 15 coming and the Samsung S23. We use both of those. So from tech to the grid side stuff. 1 minute you're on the grid doing all this kind of stuff. 1 minute you're off the grid playing out in the woods. So that's what we do here. I hope you enjoyed the video, found some value. Leave me a comment. We'll see you in the next Pixel, and I appreciate you being here.